Americans who died of opioid abuse and were killed in the Vietnam War. And as long as it makes money, nobody gives a damn. That's not a conspiracy. You tell me what it is.
We are talking Painkiller. This one directed by Mark Savage and stars Michael Paré and Bill Oberst Jr. Now this can be best described as Death Wish meets Big Pharma, and tells the story of Bill Oberst Jr.'s character, who essentially is a vigilante who specifically targets drug-related crimes, or he sees crimes at least, and primarily focusing on kind of like medical drugs that can be overprescribed or be addictive and ultimately lead to deaths, and feels those responsible in big pharma companies, doctors, things like this, are responsible for ultimately negligent homicide, I suppose. And then we have Michael Paré's character, who is a doctor who is on the verge of kind of getting this kind of new patent for this particular new drug, which was originally designed as a heart medicine, but can be used as a painkiller, which is quite addictive. And it's all about the kind of the the greed of man, essentially, overcoming any kind of morality, and Bill Oberst Jr.'s character trying to literally blow that away with a variety of gruesome executions. So what will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So let's first of all talk about what works in this one. So this is an action film with a social political message. They can be a little bit of a tricky one sometimes. This one still has its kind of roots firmly planted in B-movie schlocky territory, so you can still enjoy it, I think, as a kind of just a revenge flick, rather than kind of getting bogged down with too much kind of like heady information about conspiracies and who does what and stuff. The movie is dedicated to someone, so I'm assuming that this does come from a kind of a personal place, maybe from the kind of the filmmakers. I adored Bill Oberst Jr. in this movie, giving this kind of like steely, stoic performance of this man who's obviously been pushed to the brink by loss of his daughter. And I think the movie actually does a good job of really showing you that pain without ever showing you the daughter in the actual movie. You know, we see photographs and stuff, but it doesn't from the need to kind of spell it out for you, but you get enough information where you obviously understand his pain. And I've got to say, a lot of that is down to Bill Oberst Jr.'s performance here, really showing you a man pushed to the absolute kind of limits. The movie, I think, knows it's still a kind of a B-movie, and as such it borrows some aesthetics from The Purge, with a kind of like this kind of American flag kind of mask that Bill Oberst Jr. wears. It reminds you of the masks The Purge makes and things like that, and there is quite a lot of people being gunned down, and he gets known as the six shooter because he always shoots people 6 times. And again, it's an interesting dynamic. It's very much comparable to a kind of a vigilante style movie like Death Wish, or The Punisher, things like this. You know, he's got his police contact. He ends up kind of getting partnering almost with another doctor who's kind of like a little bit more on the level, things like that. So there are certainly some interesting angles I think this movie does have. Michael Paré does make quite a good villain, I've got to say, here as well. And it doesn't shy away from violence. That I'm pleased to say that they've used practical blood squibs and things like this. It's not a particularly gory movie, but I think it might seem a simple thing, but the use of practical kind of gore and blood effects goes a long way with most fans of kind of genre cinema, who are really not interested in obvious kind of CGI enhancements like blood explosions and things like that. So that was all kind of quite good. It's a relatively fast-paced movie, and like I've said, it will raise some questions, and I think it may make you think. I mean, I have here in the UK we have our general practitioners, or GPs, the kind of the entry-level kind of doctors, and when they prescribe drugs, they get a commission for the drugs that they prescribed you. So it's kind of when you add this to things like the Seaspiracy documentary that you may have seen, you think, man, this world is like so, it just revolves around money if you didn't already know that. So it's kind of like, in a way, it opens your eyes a little bit to a kind of a scary, you know, corporate world, if you know, you didn't already know. What doesn't work, it does seem a little bit conspiracy theory to me, to be honest with you. And I think, if I'm honest, the message is a little bit heavy-handed. I think it kind of spends a little bit too much time on Bill Oberst Jr.'s character doing this kind of like podcast or radio show where he's kind of like literally just telling you information, or, you know, in the basis of the film at least, about, you know, how bad Big Pharma is and all of this. And at a time where I think people are relying on vaccines from Big Pharma, I'm not sure this was the suitable time really to kind of really have a film like this in a lot of ways, even though it's nothing to do with vaccines, it's to do with, you know, painkiller drugs. But still, you know, in the world at the moment, we have somewhat of a reliance, or at least most people have a reliance on, you know, the big pharma companies to provide vaccines. So, you know, it's not the best timed movie, I have to say. Some of the other acting is a little hammy. I will be honest with you. I think some of the acting here seemed a little bit people who haven't done too much acting, or seem a little bit ill prepared. Maybe not a lot of like line readers and practice. They seem kind of unconfident in some of their kind of the roles. And there are some of their setups here, some of the kind of the more action sequences that just seem a little bit cheesy at times, and kind of don't really particularly seem. It's not a particularly realistic action film, because some of the kind of like the executions and stuff, I don't know, it doesn't look like, people don't seem to react like you would really. So it always has that kind of that B movie kind of undercurrent. And as I said, I think the main thing here is it's a very heavy-handed with its message. And for example, I almost feel this movie kind of throws pretty much all doctors under the bus, because it's like we have this one guy. But there's one guy who kind of helps him, but even he is being kind of indicted in criminal investigations and things. And I don't know, it doesn't have a lot of nuance, this movie. Let me put it like that. It's very kind of heavy-handed with its message. But I think you can still enjoy it as a kind of a simple revenge flick, because it does have lots of action sequences. And I enjoyed Bill Oberst Jr.'s character in this so much, actually. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It is definitely a B movie. It is definitely kind of cheesy, but I think with, you know, with some pretty good kind of performances from, at least for Bill Oberst Jr., some okay action sequences, and an interesting, you know, commentary to make this sort of a bit more of a timely action film, it kind of just pushes it above average for me. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.